Good morning, darlings. Okay, so Mr. Chadwick and I are both teaching period 2 when you should have had your webinar. So we decided that we'd do a video for you instead. So this is a quick overview and a little bit more detail, including a couple of links to check out, which are down below in the description box, which we'd like you to check out after going through this video, please, about the A-level English literature at Leek High School. So this is just a brief overview. Yeah, if there are any questions after this, please feel free to email myself or Mr. Chadwick and we'll answer as best we can. So, why is English literature important? English literature is not just about studying the text in front of you. I'll come on to that shortly. But this is a quote that I quote all the time. And it says, there is a connection between progress of a society and progress in the arts. The age of Pericles was also the age of Phidias. The age of Lorenzo de Medici was also the age of Leonardo da Vinci. The age of Elizabeth was the age of Shakespeare. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means essentially that without progress in the arts, and by this we mean art as in paintings, sculptures, drawings, we mean design, we mean architecture, we mean music, we mean literature, we mean plays, we mean films, we mean books, we mean TV shows, we mean all of this art stuff that falls under the broad umbrella of art is necessary for free thinking, which enables us to then progress society on perhaps a technological level or more advancements in society or a shift towards a different ideology. For example, there has been a massive difference in the last 10 years in technological progress, for example. If we think about the last 10 years, it's become remarkable just how integrated technology is into our lives. If we think about the last 20 years, it's even more astounding. If we think of the last 30 years, it's even more significant. And if we think of the last 40 years, since I was born, if we think of the last 40 years, it's almost a different era completely, despite the fact that it's still within living memory. And some of this has come from ideas garnered and engendered in literature and art. And this is why the two go hand in hand. Without one, the other will be stunted, and vice versa. So it's important that English literature is perpetuated through the generations. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with anything else and patronise you by reading off the screen. So let's get on to what we can offer you as an A-level, as a course. We can offer you a highly respected A-level. Universities, employers, or wherever it is that you're going next after your A-levels recognise that A-level English literature is one of the most challenging and the most enlightening A-levels there is. You don't just study the text in front of you, you research history, you look at psychology, you look at contextual reactions and details. There is more to it than just the words on the page. It is one of the most highly respected because it takes the most work and it takes the most intelligence and intellect and commitment and dedication and logical thinking. So this is what we can offer you. We can also offer you the chance to develop a wide range of knowledge. So as I've just touched on, we look at all different sorts of history, we look at different mythologies, we look at different psychological aspects of everything, of all the plays that we study and what life was like at different times. So this is what we offer you, and it's more than just reading a book and writing an essay. We offer you the chance to flex your intellectual muscles, which is never, ever, 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 ever a bad thing. It's always, always a good thing. We can offer you, because you are a smaller class, a welcoming and caring environment. We can offer you more support than you had perhaps when there were 25, 30 people in your class. Because you are going to be a smaller class at A-level, because that's the way that A-levels work, we can offer you more support, we can offer you more time, we can offer you more guidance when it comes to your non-academic assessments, and we can offer you the opportunity to be pushed in your academic learning to achieve your full potential, which is essentially what we should all be aiming for anyway, because what's the point if we don't, right? So why not? So one of the first things that you'll encounter then in your A-level is tragedy. Now, there are a couple of links in the description box below that I'd like you to check out after you've watched this video, please. Right click on them, open a new tab if you're on your laptops, and you'll be able to watch both of them accordingly. So, there are two categories of tragedy that we study here at Leek High School on the A level. There is classic tragedy and there is modern domestic tragedy. Now, in the videos below, you will get some information about why tragedy is so alluring and a few definitions and overview and what have you, but I'm just going to run through a couple of them now. So, on the next couple of slides, don't worry about getting this information down. We will cover it in class, but this is just so that you know what you need to be looking out for. These are called conventions. They are a bit stronger than the methods you've been looking at. They are conventions of tragedy. It's what we see in classic tragedy. We see that the protagonist is of high rank or fortune, noble birth or wisdom by virtue of their birth. We see that this happens in classical tragedy all the time. We see them undergo a catastrophe. We see them suffer beyond what most people will ever endure, and that it causes pity for the protagonist and fear in the audience. We're supposed to be fearful of it. We see their hamartia, and usually their hamartia is a result of their hubris. And those of you who've done Romeo and Juliet will understand all about hubris. There is usually a scene where where the protagonist recognizes their hamartia and where catharsis is experienced by the audience. Now, if all these seem like really big words and completely alien to you, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. This is covered in class. Now, the difference between a classic tragedy, such as Othello that you'll study with Mr. Chadwick, and or the Keats poetry that you'll study with me, and a modern domestic tragedy, which is Death of a Salesman that you'll study with me, is this. The protagonist is often an anti-hero. There is a focus on materialism or consumerism. There is alienation that goes on that occurs within the text. The protagonist is a misfit, but an ordinary person. They're not of high birth, they're not noble, they are an ordinary person. Family life is central but inadequate or diseased, which causes the audience to question the idea of family, the establishment itself, and any assumptions of life are undermined. It challenges the audience to question whether this is the right scenario by which people should be living their lives. There's much more of an emphasis on stage directions in a modern domestic tragedy than there is in a classical tragedy, especially Shakespeare. Shakespeare wasn't overly abundant with stage directions. When he used them, it was important. With a modern domestic tragedy, we find that it's much more prescriptive in terms of stage directions. Now, this is where the psychology stuff comes in. There is an emphasis on psychological aspects, the disorder of the world and or mind. So if you are doing English and psychology, these two subjects go hand in hand. And if you're not doing psychology, that's okay, because we'll walk you through what you need to know and some stuff that we can embellish for you as well in the course. Now, in opposition to classic tragedy, in a modern domestic tragedy, deaths often happen off stage or are concealed, and modern tragedies look inwards rather than outwards, and we'll come to that on your course, but essentially we'll look at the person themselves causing the issues rather than the world being the issue for them, and the past impinges tragically upon the present. Don't panic if all this seems overwhelming. We go through each of these stages. I mean, there is one of the videos, the second video I'm going to link down below in the description box, will help you with a little bit of this. But essentially, these are the sorts of things, these are the conventions that you'll be looking for in one of the texts. When it comes to your question about tragedy, where you compare you look at one of the statements, you don't have to compare the modern domestic tragedy with the classic tragedy of Death of a Salesman by Miller and the poems by Keats, but you do have to apply that statement to both of them. So it's useful to know this classic tragedy conventions and the modern domestic tragedy conventions. Okay. So, I mentioned earlier a non-exam assessment. Essentially, this is an essay for each of the teachers, and you will complete this, you'll complete these two pieces. They're worth 20% a total of your grade, so 10% each, and you'll complete this by the end of year 12. What does this enable you to do then? So you get the chance again to flex your intellectual muscles. You get the chance to have control and choice over your studies, which is great preparation for university, where you'll choose modules on your degrees that suit and tailor to your career needs. It's a really, really good preparation. You would get the chance to develop your independent working and learning skills, because you will have to undertake this study on your own to a point. And then you get a chance to interact and enter into a discourse with a chosen text. Now, for Mr. Chadwick, you will base these on these texts on a collection of poetry. You'll base your essay on a collection of poetry, usually surrounding the idea of feminism. Now, for the piece that you'll do for your novel, you will look at either Marxism, post-colonialism, or eco-criticism. So what's eco-criticism? Eco-criticism is it's a genre or an idea or a theory that puts the ecology of the world, the environment, on the environmental concerns at the forefront of a text. Post-colonialism is all about everything that was written after a country has gained independence from being a colony from another country. And Marxism, I'm sure we've all heard of, and if we haven't, don't worry, we go through it in great depth in your anthologies and in your lessons. Okay, so that's a non-exam assessment. So what's next then? In year 13, we then change the focus to social and political protest. You do a set of poetry with Mr. Chadwick and a novel with Mr. Chadwick, and you do one novel with me. And the question I'm asking now, I suppose, is, or what I might expect you to ask is, why is this important for more than just the A level? Why do we do it in year 13 and not year 12? So it helps us understand the true function of literature. As I said before, literature helps free the mind, therefore helps progress society, and vice versa. So it's inherently necessary in our society to have literature. It helps us learn to question the society we're living in, which is something we all should do as adults, which by the time you leave the course, hopefully you will be well on your way to being an accomplished adult, and therefore we help shape it for the better. It helps us prepare for a future study or future careers by allowing us to develop our own voice, our thoughts and opinions, and our ability to comment on serious issues with maturity, with logicality, with an in-depth knowledge, and with skill. Okay? So that's what's next then. So thank you very much for your attention. I will remind you again that in the description box below there are 2 links that I'd like you to check out, please. And if you have any questions, please email myself or Mr. Chadwick and we will answer them as much as possible. Okay, take care. See you soon. See you Friday. Bye.